You believe your security cameras protect you. You think they watch every corner, record every moment. But what if I told you that in your moment of greatest need, those cameras silently shut down? Neighbors heard the screams, but the cameras, they recorded nothing. Today, we're going to show you how technology can become a weapon. I'm David Harrington. Welcome to Dark Case Files. This case shows us that security isn't just about installing cameras and locks. Real security lies in who controls these systems. Smart home technologies make our lives easier. There's no doubt about that. But like any technology, they can be misused. If you have a smart home system, ask yourself this: who can access this system? Are your passwords secure? Are your updates being done? And most importantly, was this system set up by someone you trust? Because sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from outside. It comes from someone who's already inside. I'm David Harrington. Thank you for Dark Case Files. See you in the next case. And remember, trust technology, but verify. After this case, the Seattle Police Department launched an awareness campaign about smart home security. They warned people about the risks of these systems. A few months later, I spoke with the victim again. I asked how she was doing. "I'm still healing," she said. "I'm receiving psychological therapy, but I feel better now. I moved to a new house, and this time I set up the security system myself. I got it from a trusted professional company. I set all the passwords myself, and I check regularly. This incident taught me a lot. Technology is great, but you shouldn't blindly trust it, and boundaries are very important in relationships. I should have left when I saw the first red flags, but now I'm stronger." The ex-boyfriend was tried for multiple crimes. 1. Home invasion, unlawful entry with intent, assault, unauthorized access to computer systems, stalking bautmat, stalkingbautenstickando. In court, Sam Reeves testified as an expert witness. He presented his technical report, explained how the backdoor was installed, how the system was manipulated. The victim also bravely testified. She described the psychological trauma, the fear, the insecurity. The jury evaluated all the evidence and found the defendant guilty. When sentencing, the judge said, "This case is a striking example of how modern technology can be misused. You, as an expert who sets up security systems, used this technology not to protect, but to harm. You stole a person's most basic right, the feeling of security. This is unacceptable." The defendant was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Additionally, he was banned from working at technology companies and completely prohibited from contacting the victim. When I sat down with Sam Reeves, we discussed the lessons to be learned from this case. "People think smart home systems protect them," Sam said, "but most people don't really understand how these systems work." Sam continued, "These systems are essentially computers connected to the internet, and like any computer, they can be hacked, or as in this case, they can be manipulated from the inside. So how can people protect themselves? There are a few basic rules. First, you need to completely trust the person who sets up your smart home system. If your relationship with this person has ended, you need to reset the entire system. New passwords, new accounts, even new hardware if possible. Second, regular software updates are very important. Manufacturers are constantly closing security vulnerabilities. Systems running on old software are vulnerable to hacking. Third, use two-factor authentication. That way, even if your password is stolen, the attacker can't access the system. And most importantly, Sam said, regularly check your system. Are there strange activities? Are unknown devices connected? These checks can save lives. Elena also emphasized an important point from a social perspective. This case shows us that domestic violence is no longer just physical. It can also be digital. Attackers are using technology as a control tool. It's very important for victims to recognize this type of technological abuse and seek help. If an ex-partner seems to constantly know where you are, there may be tracking software on your phone or in your home. The ex-boyfriend was a 32-year-old software engineer. He worked at a cybersecurity company in Seattle. Ironically, a company that tested the security of smart home systems. When the police called him to the station, he initially acted very calm. "I was home sleeping that night," he said. "I didn't hurt anyone." But the police had examined his cell phone records, and the GPS data showed that at 2:30 a.m. that night, he was right near the victim's house. Even worse, on his phone was an app that could remotely connect to the smart home system, and the app log records showed that on the night of the attack at 2:45 a.m., a connection had been made to the system. The technical report Sam prepared laid out all the digital evidence. 1. 2 minutes before the attack, a remote connection was made to the smart home system. 2. This connection was made from the ex-boyfriend's cell phone. 3. After the connection, all security cameras were manually disabled. 4. The back door in the system had been installed by the ex-boyfriend. Faced with this evidence, the ex-boyfriend's defense collapsed. He had to confess. "Yes, I couldn't accept that I had lost her," he said. "I still thought she was mine. That night, I just wanted to talk, but she wouldn't listen to me." So, the police didn't let him say more. They read him his Miranda rights and arrested him. What we learned in this case is very important, and it's something every smart home owner should know. But first, let me fully explain to you how this technology turned into a weapon. When I met with the victim again, I asked for information about her ex-boyfriend. She hesitated at first, then began to tell. "We met 6 months ago. He worked at a tech company specialized in IoT security systems. He was a very intelligent person, but over time he started exhibiting obsessive behaviors." "What kind of behaviors?" "He started constantly asking where I was. He wanted to look at my phone. He didn't want me to see my friends. At first, these seemed like small things, but they got progressively worse." "When did you break up?" "A month ago. I couldn't take it anymore. I told him I wanted to break up. He got very angry. There was a big argument. Finally, I kicked him out of the house." "And he was the one who set up your smart home system?" The woman nodded. "Yes. When we were living together, he set up the entire security system for the house. He was an expert in this field. He told me, 'I'll protect you.' But now I understand that this system wasn't designed to protect me. It was designed to control me." With this information, Sam examined the system in more detail, and he discovered something shocking. On the smart home hub device, there was a hidden backdoor. This backdoor provided remote access to the system, and this access was independent of normal user accounts. So even if the victim changed her password, the ex-boyfriend could still access the system. "This is a professional job," Sam said. "To install this backdoor requires both software and hardware knowledge, and this person is clearly an expert in both." We gave this information to the police. They identified the ex-boyfriend and called him in for questioning. When Sam Reeves arrived at the victim's house, his first task was to examine the router and hub devices that were the center of the smart home system. These devices were the central units through which all smart devices in the house communicated. Sam extracted the log records from the hub device. These records showed what device did what, and when, in the system, and what he found shocked all of us. At 2:45 a.m., just 2 minutes before the attack, a remote connection had been made to the system. This connection wasn't from the victim's own phone or computer. It came from another device. Sam examined the log records more deeply. This remote connection had sent specific commands to the security cameras. It had put all the cameras into offline mode, disabled the recording feature. "This isn't a hack," Sam told me on the phone. "This is something done by someone with authorized access to the system, meaning the attacker knew the admin passwords for this smart home system." "How is that possible?" I asked. "Two possibilities. Either the victim accidentally shared the passwords, or the person who set up this system was the attacker himself." This information turned the investigation in a completely new direction. The attacker wasn't a random burglar. This was an attack specifically planned for this house, this woman, and the attacker knew the house's technological systems from the inside. When I spoke with Elena, she had also gathered interesting information. In her interviews with the neighbors, she had learned that a few weeks ago, another incident had occurred at the same house. The neighbors say, Elena said, 3 weeks ago, there was a big argument at this house at midnight. A man and woman were arguing loudly. The neighbors considered calling the police, but then the sound stopped. Who was the man? The neighbors didn't see details, but they think it was the victim's ex-boyfriend. They broke up about a month ago. This information put another piece of the puzzle in place. Ex-boyfriend. I always tell you, in domestic violence cases, the most dangerous moment is the moment of separation. But in this case, the attacker didn't just use physical force, he used technology, and that made him much more dangerous. The Seattle Police Department treated this case as a serious home invasion. But the mysterious disabling of the security cameras troubled them. They realized they needed to consult digital forensics experts. That's exactly when David Harrington, started taking an interest in this case. As the Dark Case Files team, we were investigating how modern technology is used in crimes. This case seemed like a perfect example. I immediately sent Sam Reeves from our team to Seattle. Sam is an expert in digital forensics and cybersecurity. If anyone could figure out what happened to those cameras, it was Sam. Elena Cortez also came with me. Elena's job was to talk to the neighbors, to understand what happened on the street that night. Sometimes the most important clues aren't hidden in technical details, but in people's observations. When we met with the victim, she had just been released from the hospital. She was recovering physically, but was still in shock. We won't give her name. Protecting her privacy is our priority. But what she told us completely changed the case. I was home alone that night, she said. I had worked late, on a project on my computer. Around 2 a.m., I decided to go to bed. I went up to the bedroom, turned off the lights. What happened next? I asked. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard a sound from downstairs, like something falling. At first I thought it was my cat, but my cat was staying with a friend that night. That's when I realized there was someone else in the house. The woman continued. I reached for my phone to call 911, but right then the bedroom door opened. I saw someone in the darkness. I screamed. He came toward me. Could you see his face? No, it was too dark. But from his physical features, I could tell it was a man. He attacked me, and I tried to defend myself. I ran toward the stairs, kept screaming. He came after me. What happened next? I got down to the living room. I tried to run to the front door, but he grabbed me. We struggled. I was trying to reach the door. He was blocking me. Then suddenly, I heard a police siren from outside. When he heard that sound, the attacker immediately let go of me. He ran toward the back door and escaped. What she told us is frightening enough, but the truly shocking part was hidden in what Sam found, and I assure you, you'll never look at your smart home systems the same way again. When the officers opened the door, they were met with a dark house. All the lights were off. There was no power outage. The lights were on throughout the rest of the street. Only this house had been deliberately plunged into darkness. When they entered with flashlights, they found the young woman in the living room. She was sitting on the floor, back against the wall, trembling. There was a red mark on her left cheek. Defensive wounds were visible on her hands. She had clearly been attacked. He was here, the woman said, her voice shaking. He was here just minutes ago. The officers immediately began searching the house. They checked all the rooms. They looked in the backyard, but no one was there. The attacker must have escaped before the police arrived. An ambulance was called. The young woman was taken to the hospital. Her physical injuries weren't serious, but the psychological trauma was deep. The officers stayed at the house that night for a crime scene investigation. And that's when they noticed something. Security cameras were in every corner of the house. 2 in the living room, 1 in the kitchen, 1 at the top of the stairs, 1 at the front door, 1 at the back door. A total of 8 cameras, all modern high resolution, with night vision capabilities, but none of them had recorded anything. A police officer looked at the LED light on one of the living room cameras. Normally, these cameras had a small green light that turned on when recording. Now the light was off. The camera was physically in place, but it wasn't working. They checked the other cameras. They were all the same. None of them were working. The police examined the victim's cell phone. The phone had a smart home app installed. When they opened the app, they saw that all the cameras were offline, as if there had been a power outage, but there was no power outage. Let me ask you something. If 8 security cameras all go offline at the exact same time, at the moment of an attack, is that a coincidence or is it planned? At 2:47 a.m., an elderly couple living on the east side of Pinewood Street was awakened by a sharp scream. The woman's voice was clearly a call for help. Her husband immediately rushed to the window and looked out onto the street. The sound was coming from the modern house across the street, the young woman's house. When the second scream came, the elderly man grabbed his cell phone and called 911. 911, what's your emergency? There are screaming sounds coming from my neighbor's house. Someone needs help. The 911 operator took the address and immediately dispatched a police patrol. But at that moment, another neighbor living on the west side of the street had also heard the same sounds. A young man who had been working late at home that night. When he heard the screams, he immediately looked out his window. Under the street lamps, he could see the yard in front of the young woman's house. But strangely, he saw nothing moving. The lights in the house weren't on. Everything seemed eerily normal and silent. A third neighbor, a middle-aged woman living in the house right next door, hesitated when she heard the same screams. Maybe it's a television, she thought, but her instinct told her this was real. The police patrol arrived on the street just 4 minutes after the call. 2 police officers hurried toward the young woman's house. The front door was closed. They tried the lights, knocked on the door. No response. The screaming sounds had now stopped. The street was silent again. The officers applied emergency protocol. They prepared to break down the door. But just then, a faint voice came from inside. Help me before I tell you what they found inside. I need to tell you something. The most chilling detail in this case wasn't what was found inside. It was what wasn't found outside. In October 2024, the Maple Ridge neighborhood in North Seattle was the epitome of modern living. Wide yards, electric vehicle charging stations, Amazon packages at every doorstep. And of course, almost every home had smart home systems, smart locks, smart thermostats, and most importantly, smart security cameras. On the night of October 28th, at exactly 2:47 a.m., a young woman living alone in one of the houses on Pinewood Street found herself at home. Her modern 2-story house was equipped with the latest smart home technology. 8 4K security cameras, motion sensors, smart door locks, even voice assistants. In theory, this house was as secure as a fortress, but that night, something went terribly wrong. Once you learn what happened after the neighbors heard the screams, you'll never look at smart homes the same way again. But first, let me tell you how it started.